So there's broad strokes. The term stable coins, and this is something for all your hex only people that are looking through this stuff with the, like, is it staking, is it minting or publishing or whatever words we're playing with. So the reason these things matter is because when you look at them, there's the way we communicate them, and then there's a legal framework. So the obvious example I use all the time is ETH, Ether, and Ethereum. I think we may have even said this last time we were on the show. So ETH is a ticker symbol, Ether is a coin, and Ethereum's a network. But if I was like, hey, RHMax, I made 5 ETH, he knows what I mean. If I'm like, hey, somebody owes me 5 Ethereum, he knows exactly what I mean. But if we're talking about a legal framework, those are different things. So the same thing with staking. That term is different than what's actually happening in the code base, but we were using a colloquial term to make it easy for us to understand, right? We put in our stake, and then at some point we get out this yield, right? So how it happened isn't always that particularly interesting to us. The hex code is actually really interesting, but it wasn't technically staking by definition. And this becomes an issue. And this is the same thing that happened with Kraken. So they called it staking as a service, but the service wasn't actually staking, which caused a problem. So with stable coins, the reason that there's this issue is because when we say stable coins, we all think of all the stable coins. But legally in the framework, stable coins mean something specific. So the 3 types are essentially payment stable coins, algorithmic stable coins or synthetic stable coins, and then collateral backed stable coins. So payment stable coins is what most of us would just call stable coins. That's USDC, USDT, BUSD, any of these fiat backed derivatives, right? So they, under the legal framework, the basic idea is it's backed by fiat, it's directly redeemable, and it comes from a central issuer. That's payment stable coins. Then you have algorithmic stable coins, and that's your Frax, Luna, Neutrino, Amplify. There's a handful of these different ones, and that's where they run off these different types of peg to go through and try to figure out how to maintain their price exposure. And then you have collateral backed, which is DAI, although I'd like to exclude it, LUSD, and then one in the future for most of the community will be the Power City guys, PulseX dollar coin, and then obviously from us, USDL. These are backed by collateral, right? And where the difference matters is, one, differences matter. There's a reason there's 3 categories from the first place. There's different risk profiles with these. So depending on what people are doing, they should understand which tool to use. Then the other is when you say stable coins, if you look at any of this architecture from the US, from Canada, from the UK, Australia, all these places, when they say stable coin, they actually mean payment stable coins. And if you go through and look at the definitions, they don't mean all the stable coins that we mean. So things like DAI and LUSD would have different frameworks. So there's a couple of reasons. One, we don't want to call those stable coins in the future likely because they're technically not. So that's a compliance issue. The other is if you call something, you're likely to be treated that way, right? So if you keep calling it a stable coin over and over and over and over and over and over again, and then when there's a problem and then you say, oh, hold on, we're not a stable coin. They show you the receipts and they say, well, you've called it a stable coin for 2 years, so we're treating you like one. So those are the 3 types, but that's the reason that some of these words where, again, whether it's in hex or in stable coins, where so many of us have just been like, hey man, like stop babbling, they're stable coins. I get it. I understand. And when we're talking, we don't necessarily go through all the semantics, but it is important that we know those things. Like those things come for a reason. And it's because as these things become more regulated, we want to be more specific in our language.
Absolutely. Yeah. On the hex thing, I guess it's a wait and see what it shakes out to be. We'll see. It's mining officially right now. That's what the website says, and staking portal and all that. But
so I don't think it should be called any of those. Mining is likely to have a soon definition, and also mining, including Bitcoin mining, they've even brought up the possibility of extra taxes associated with the electricity. So what if you call hex staking mining and then they say you're not tax compliant? So again,
publishing it is.
Right. And so now again, that's a really goofy example. And they're going to be like, what, you want me to like give you my phone bill? Like, but that's the whole point, right? That's the reason that we use these specific terms. So if you look at most things, like financial advice is different than advice. trading is different than insider trading. Like these small differences in terms make a really large difference. So that's the reason I think that we'll want to like really look through and come up with a specific term for the way Hex functions. Colloquially, we can still call it these things, but how it's officially referred to actually matters for those things. And I know that, again, for the vast majority, it gets so lost in the weeds. But as we become more integrated and there's more attention from regulators, like those things will really matter and they make a big difference.
Yeah, and it could be that in 2 weeks there's some kind of regulation that comes out that defines exactly what staking is, what mining is, all that stuff. And it could be 6 months from now. So that can have an effect on, the wording, what we refer to it as officially, all of that. So it's like this back and forth game. Like, okay, we'll see. We keep hearing it's coming out. I mean, these events keep happening. I wonder how many of them we can have before somebody's just like, all right, just do it. Hopefully it's not just a goofy way of pushing stuff down. You talked about the mining tax proposals that came out recently too. And I hope somebody's up there fighting for us. Peter Thiel, come on, Peter Thiel. Let's get back into politics for us. How about that?
There's a great question from Mark G. Can we snag that one? This is a really fun one.
The PulseX wallet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Mark G. So this is a fun question that one lets me make fun of people I like to make fun of and also bring up some cool stuff. So DAI lost its peg too. Why did it lose its peg? Most of the common answer is going to be, well, it's got collateral that's USDC. There wasn't a collateral call. So why did the peg break? Well, that's because the fun people over at MakerDAO hard coded the price of USDC into its code at a single dollar. So it doesn't actually reference the price of USDC. It treats it statically as a dollar. So that means that the price of DAI, its peg, is actually now pegged also to USDC inadvertently through the code, but not the inverse. So if DAI happened to break peg, USDC is fine. But if USDC breaks peg, it pulls down the DAI peg as well because there's an ARB event. So if I can buy USDC for $1 and then mint $1 worth of DAI, I do this over and over and over and over again until those prices fluctuate. And so then they now move lock in step, almost like bonded liquidity, but this is a different style of ARB. So one, that's really dumb. Don't do that. The other, when it comes to the actual issue there of the actual ARB event, when it comes to the coding side. So the reason that the PulseX wallet took DAI is that you ended up with essentially the same ARB play, but with a much better risk profile. So if I could buy 90-cent DAI or 90-cent USDC, which one do I want? Okay, likely you want DAI, right? So because the pricing is moved down the same, but I have more collateral and there's likely to be more of an event, a slower event, more collateral, more backing. I have a better chance of basically getting my value out of DAI than I do USDC, but I'm getting the same odds, right? So it's like, do you want to take the chance on something that's broken, zero collateral, zero redemptions, or something that's broken but has some redemptions, but I get the same bet, right? So that's the reason that you saw that ARB event. So they picked up a ton of value, and that's the reason they picked DAI rather than USDC, if I was guessing what that wallet owner was thinking. So one, it's really interesting to see bad coding from MakerDAO. That's something to pay attention to. And then the other is, man, what an interesting movement there. And especially at economies of scale where you're talking about millions of dollars. I think someone did the math. I think that wallet picked up like $4 to $7 million from this ARB event.